Hi, Debbie Knox, and we're working again on More Than Conquerors, and we're working on the costumes today. We wanted to go a little bit over some of the history as we're studying through this time period. This takes place in 1622. King James is king. Elizabeth has passed, and a lot of the sumptuary laws, which were laws about what you could wear based on your income and based on your position, had been done away with by James as considered it old-fashioned. Some of the things that were interesting that had changed during this time period is prior to this, people had been wearing very large ruffs, the rich people anyway, very big curly collars. They got bigger and bigger, and they were enormous to the point that people couldn't eat on them. So they started out with the big ruffs. Then they cut away so that they were open in the front and just on the back, and they were held up by wires, similar to this one. And then later, the men started realizing this was just incompatible, so they started having falling ruffs. So here we see a woman with a falling ruff, and here we see men with falling ruffs also. So then that falling ruff eventually evolved into being more of a collar. The men's pants also changed. They went from having this great big puffed, and they were actually stuffed to make them look larger. And then towards the end of this time period, or where the movie is taking place, they had come more to this one that was more natural. The men's pants didn't have a waistband with a belt like we do. They were actually tied up with points that came up here through their doublets. As was their sleeves, they were also tied on, and then they were covered by this wing or some tabs. So here's a picture of a gentleman's pants, and you can see how the balloon is lower. This one doesn't have the tabs, his sleeves are actually attached. But this peplum here covers where the ties are. On the women, they also started wearing doublets. They also have the wings on them. This one's trimmed with lace, and you can see it's fuller through the bottom on the peplum, and that was to accommodate for their skirts. The women's skirts at the beginning of the period were wider at the top. They had something called a cartwheel hoop underneath that kept them really wide. Then they ended up tipping, and then they finally took away the hoops and let them just fall more naturally. So this is just some of the things we've been studying and learning about, and trying to find out more about the people and how they lived, and trying to get the costumes to look appropriate for the time. We really appreciate you. If you want to learn more about this, you can follow us on mtcthemovie.com. Come and see us and follow